Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Race number 15 of the 5th season of the NCRA Hersheys Cup Series comes rolling into Darlington. It's throwback week here with the Mountain Dew Southern 500 as we prepare ourselves for 56 laps of racing here tonight at the Lady in Black. One of these drivers is going to leave with a trip to victory lane, and a number of these drivers may leave this famed and historic racetrack with a legendary Darlington stripe on the right side of their cars. Now, the Truck Series were here last night. Pizza Hut X Series took an off week, but one of the Pizza Hut X Series drivers that's not on vacation joining me here in the commentator's booth, and he knows a thing or two about throwbacks, Mr. James Qualls. Qualls, how you doing?
Doing all right, about y'all?
Doing great, and of course here tonight, every single one of these 39 drivers decked out in some kind of throwback scheme. It's kind of like stepping back into a time machine here.
Oh, no question about it. Of course, Darlington, of course, being one of the legendary tracks, very prestigious, much like ranks up there with Daytona, Charlotte, Indianapolis, places like that. Of course, you got a mix of retro. And of course, with my series, that's what I love to do, obviously, with a mix of them. But still, got an all-star field here today, fittingly enough as well. And so we'll see. Every one of them, you can't count one of them, anyone as a favorite, really, in the way the series is going right now. So I say it's going to be a toss-up, see who pulls it off here at Darlington.
And of course, we are into the stage of the season known as the chase towards the chase for the championship. So really a lot of the moves that are made here at this point of the season really could play into a big factor into how much of a competitor these drivers will be when the chase begins. Darlington's not exactly one of the easiest tracks on the circuit. So how do you think this particular track's going to kind of play into that potential championship picture and the 16 drivers that will make the chase?
Well, I think you just said it. Darlington's definitely not an easy track. For one thing, it's an egg-shaped track, obviously. One set of turns is longer than the other set. You drive. The way I usually drive that track, 1 and 2, you're almost full throttle all the way through 1 and 2, but 3 and 4 though, obviously, is where is one of the most critical parts of the track. We've seen a lot of crashes throughout that part of the track, so I think that's one thing you got to look out for when you run Darlington.
And you and I have both driven at this track before, and another part of this track that people don't really often consider is just how hard it is to get onto pit road here. The entry to pit road, very tight, and if you make a mistake, it could definitely cost you.
Yeah, just ask Denny Hamlin at this past Southern 500, this past Labor Day weekend.
Absolutely, no doubt about that. So as we get set for this race, as I said, every single one of these drivers decked out in throwback colors, and so for the only time probably this season, we are going to be showing you guys all the throwbacks and all the cars that these schemes are throwing back to, with a special starting grid. So as we're going to be showing you the starting grid, Qualls and I will be bringing you down the list of the starting lineup and letting you know just exactly which throwback each one of these drivers are going to be throwing back to, as we'll wait for the grid to come up here. And things, of course, will be kicking off with one of the Rookie of the Year competitors in the 34 of K Shearer. So as soon as the grid comes up here, Qualls, take it away.
K Shearer is on the pole for this race. He's in the number 34 Chevrolet, driving the 1965 Wendell Scott retro. He's on the pole. Alongside of him is Daniel Gilbert, number 4 in the National Guard Chevrolet. He is in the 2001 Dale Earnhardt Jr. Paint scheme. Definitely one of my favorites as well. Number 3, starting third, is Blaine Keys. He's in the Alan Quickie Ford Thunderbird team. The Army cars that he ran, that they debuted at Daytona. Then it's number 44, Sean Gallighan, one of the tough competitors in this field. His retro scheme in 1999 Kyle Petty Hot Wheels scheme. Starting 5th is K Farrell. His retro scheme is the Darrell Waltrip's Mercury Cyclone from 1971, one of Darrell's first cars, as a matter of fact. Beside him, Brooke Allen, number 3, in the Pizza Hut Make It Great Chevrolet. Her car, of course, the famous Dale Earnhardt cars he took to his last victory at Talladega in 2000. Next row down is J Bryant, car number 22. His retro scheme in 1999 or 1998 Ward Burton paint scheme. Alongside him will be car 78, the NOS Toyota of Matt Haas. He's in the 1998 Gary Bradbury colors. Bradbury, of course, was runner-up in Rookie of the Year in 1996. It's Dallas McIntosh, number 14, Cheez-It Chevrolet. His retro scheme in 1999, Larry Pearson, funding for the NASCAR Busch Series. And K Tellier, the number 70, Aussie Lincoln. Her retro scheme, of course, the J.D. McDuffie cars. You may remember Joshua Osborne, of course, had that in Pizza Hut X. Starting 11th is Keith Batson. He's in another Lincoln, the number 39 car. His retro scheme, really a 1980s Bill Elliott colors. And then it's K Llamas, number 48, the Lowe's Chevrolet. His retro scheme, a 1986 Lowe's Delivery Trucks throwback. Starting in 13th position will be car number 61, Anthony McCurry, one of the legends in the NNSCRA. He's in a 1995 Todd Bodine throwback, car number 61. And starting in 14th position will be Emmanuel Hartnett in the Harry Gant Chevy Lumina Retro, the last scheme he drove back in 1994. Then it's Johnny Gardner, starting in 15th position. He's in the scheme that you would least likely see him in. Jeff Gordon paid scheme, him being a Keselowski fan, I don't know why. And starting in 16th position will be Zachary Fitzwater. He's in the he's in the Colt Trickle colors from 1990. Starting in the 17th position will be car 02, Jessica Shelton, another one of the legends of the NNSCRA category, and she is in the 1950 Johnny Mance paint scheme. That's the oldest scheme in the field. And Leon Alvarise will be alongside in car number 18, the 08 Aaron Stream Machine Chevrolet. He's in the Lake Speed Retro from 1992. And it's Brandon Gonzales in the 19th position, of former Snickers Cup champion. He's in the 1984 Davey Allison paint scheme. And then alongside him is J Baskinger, number 15, or number 5, excuse me. He's in the 1994 Terry Labonte colors, like being at the Kellogg scheme. Then it's Charles Sandfer, number 03, the Reese's Chevrolet. His retro scheme, a 2006 Bobby Hamilton Dodge Charger. And alongside of him will be James McCloud, number 51, the Melly Yellow Chevrolet. He's in another Colt Trickle retro from 1990. He starts in 22nd position. Starting 23rd will be Garrett Sydnor, car 38, the Dr. Pepper Chevrolet. His retro scheme, a 2000 Tony Roper scheme, one of the last cars Roper had before he got killed in the truck race. And then starting 24th will be Benjamin Miles, car 25, the Napa Chevrolet. He's in the the Ricky Craven Retro from 1997. There's the Steve Park Retro. It's Trent Dunham, number 1, the Sega Chevrolet. He's in the Steve Park Retro from 2002. Beside him, Kyle Mathews, car 09, the Kings Island Chevrolet. His retro scheme, a 1995 Kyle Petty Coors Light colors. Starting 27th is Tim Walch in car 15. His retro scheme, a 1986 Ricky Rudd Motorcraft scheme, except Rudd's, of course, a Ford, and this was a Chevrolet, the 500G car. And Quentin Moore, car 89, representing his driver Morgan Shepherd. His retro scheme from 2007. Excuse me. Starting 29th is Cole Baker in the Bobby Labonte retro from 2002. He's driving the number 18 Chevrolet. And starting in 30th position outside of row 15 is Joshua Michaels in car number 10. And the only Honda in the field, the Honda Accord. He's in the 1990 Derek Coke cars that carried him to the Daytona 500 that year. Then it's John Arndt car number 15, car number 05. He's in the Tony Stewart retro that won him the championship in 2005. And beside him will be car number 11, the FedEx Toyota. It is James Richardson. He's in the 1968 Mario Andretti colors. Starting 33rd is the IKEA Chevrolet car 88 of Chris Dodd. He's in the Dale Earnhardt colors from 1987. You remember 11 wins that year. And car number 12, Cody Smart. He's driving the Verizon Wireless Ford car number 12. His retro scheme, a 1988 Bobby Allison car that he won the 500 with for the third time. Then it's Dylan Young in car number 2, the Chicago Cubs Ford. His retro scheme, a 2001 Jeff Burton scheme, the fact the scheme he won his last race with. And Dylan Poteet, car 31, the Valvoline Hulk Chevrolet. His retro scheme, a 1992 Mark Martin Ford Thunderbird. You know, this is a Chevrolet. Then it's Levi McIntyre, the number 99 Marvel Studios Ford. His retro scheme, a 1999 Jeff Burton car. In fact, it's my favorite Jeff Burton paint scheme, as a matter of fact. And he'll be alongside Alex Drakeman, car number 77. He's in the 2005 Cal Naughton Jr. colors. Fuels by Chevrolet. And starting shotgun in the field is Nathan Hudson in the Monster Energy Chevrolet car number 29. He's in the Michael Walch retro from 2001. He won the Daytona 500 for the first time.
And that's your starting grid for the Mountain Dew Southern 500. And now you know why James Qualls was chosen to join me in the commentator's booth, because there's no way you'd have gotten those facts from me. But as we get set here, K Shearer and Daniel Guilbert, couple of former winners here this season. Green flag is out at Darlington. Let's roll. Well, Qualls, I mean, you've seen these races year in, year out. You've seen these drivers try and tackle the lady in black. Who are you looking at here in the field to maybe be one of the front runners tonight?
Well, as I said before, though, I mean, you got really nobody's a easy one, because this is basically an all-star field. As you see the 42 go to the inside lane, that is the Blaine Keyes car. He's going to the inside. He'll lead the first lap on K Shearer. But really, it's going to be it's really a survival of the fittest here when it comes to Darlington, because, as we said before, the track's very, very tough. It's egg-shaped. It's very unique characteristics. So I say you call it in this race.
We've had 14 races up to this point. 13 drivers have gone to victory lane. Chris Dodd's the only driver that's gone to victory lane more than once this season. Of those 13 drivers, 12 of them are inside the top 30 in the point standings. So theoretically right now, if the chase were to begin, only 4 drivers would get in based off of points. And that one driver that's outside the top 30 in standings is Anthony McCrury, so we'll keep tabs on the 61 during the course of the night and see if he can get good enough finish to get himself back up into the top 30 for his win earlier on this year at Bristol to count towards a chase spot.
And we see the front 5 cars have broken away with Blaine Keyes still leading the race here. And
that's Caleb Farrell and J Bryant there battling for second place. And
Bryant trying to go to the inside. Bryant trying to go to the inside lane, but Farrell's not having any of it. Now Farrell's trying to close up on Blaine Keyes, or trying to at least. And now we see Farrell's. Now we see. J Bryant now under fire from the behind him.
Got a good battle going on back here. This is for around the 7th position. Daniel Guilbert has slipped back to 7th. Keith Batson. There's Anthony McCurry. We talked about him. And there's Matt Haas in the 78, defending champion of the series, not having the start to the season that he wanted. Out of the 39 drivers in the field, Matt Haas comes into this race 35th in the standings, so he really needs to step it up here in the second half of this regular season if he's going to have a shot at defending his championship once the chase begins.
Exactly, and we saw how lucky Keith Batson was to try to find a hold of on the inside lane, or else he could have gone clear back to the back.
Yeah, one thing that I've kind of noticed here with Darlington, especially in the truck race here last night, turns 1 and 2, if you get to the inside, you're going to be able to blow by whoever you're trying to pass that's stuck on the high side. 3 and 4, though, that outside line can battle back a little bit, and we've saw a couple of drivers in the truck race be able to get the run off turn 4 on the high side and be able to hang on to the spot. But if you get kicked up the high side 1 and 2, you're going to get freight trained.
Exactly, and there's several tracks on the circuit that's like that. As we see J Bryant go inside of Daniel Guilbert for position, and I see the 14 car of Dallas McIntosh trying to follow suit, but Gilbert almost just about slams the door on him. In fact, now he does slam the door on him, but nope, McIntosh is going to go to the inside again, and he's got Gallighan behind him.
Talked about drivers that are trying to find victory lane for the first time this season, but also drivers trying to find their second win of the year. McIntosh and Gallighan would fit into that category. McIntosh winning a few weeks ago at Richmond, and Gallighan winning earlier on this season at Rio de Janeiro. So both of these drivers would certainly like to be able to find victory lane for a second time this year, not only for the fact it could more than likely lock themselves up a spot in the chase for the championship, but then it would also tie them for the number 1 seed along with Chris Dodd with most wins this year.
And Blaine Keyes better not look now, because JT Bryant about closed up on him there on the last time by, but he's now since pulled away from JT. Now JT's going to have a mirror full of both Sean Gallighan and Dallas McIntosh as well for second.
Blaine Keyes had to fight his way to the race lead from starting 3rd, was able to get by both Daniel Guilbert and K Shearer. And Blaine Keyes is the only driver out of Sega Motorsports so far this season that hasn't found victory lane. Teammates McIntosh and Dunham have. Keep in mind, Blaine Keys was the highest performing driver of the Sega Motorsports drivers last year. Just missed out on winning the championship from Matt Haas by 7 points.
And he's one of those drivers you never can count out in any NNSCRA series neither.
Absolutely right. Looking back here at the back through the top 10, K Shearer started out in front and kind of faded back. Now, one thing that I noticed in the truck race, and this seems to be pretty true with Darlington, a lot of drivers have their cars set up for the short runs, but some drivers think that these races are going to go green, and so far we've completed 10 laps onto our 11th lap of green flag competition. This thing could go into a long green flag run, and some drivers may have prepared for that and have their cars set up for a long run.
And the one thing I noticed that it could play up to Blaine Keys' advantage at this stage of the race is that you got second on down to about 5th position there. Keep trading spots back and forth because they're so bunched up behind them.
And especially with the CTS physics, that's not going to help you be able to gain speed and gain time and close that gap up between yourself and that race leader. So yeah, as they continue to battle side by side, that hurts the lap times.
Yep. You watch Gallighan go inside now of Dallas McIntosh. That's for 3rd spot as he goes inside, and he's going to have Daniel Gilbert behind him, and McIntosh just about got the wall off turn number 4. McIntosh trying to find a hole between between Gallighan and Gilbert, or he could try to power up by him on the outside, which he tried to, but that didn't work.
You know, for me, it's a complete sense of irony to see Gallighan in that race car, because for those that don't know, Sean Gallighan running the Craftsman Car Series, and I ended up signing up for his series back in Season 1, and guess what ride I was in? The number 44 Hot Wheels right Pontiac Grand Prix. That's exactly right.
And he was in that car in some of my series, too, and in fact almost won the championship with it, too.
Absolutely right. So just a complete sense of irony there. There's Emmanuel Hartnett there, that Harry Gant throwback, and there's Jessica Shelton. Now, Jessica Shelton has some amazing numbers here in the Hersheys Cup Series at Darlington. 4 starts, 2 trips to victory lane, a 50% so far chance of going to victory lane, and might be able to pick up her 3rd win tonight. You notice that, as Qual said, driving that oldest scheme in the field, with Shelton running the 1950 throwback to Johnny Mance, who was the very first driver to actually win at Darlington Raceway, which at the time was classified as a super speedway, believe it or not. And you'll notice if you look very closely at her card down near the skirts, it says 2-time Darlington race winner. So definitely she's one of the ones you have to watch when you come here, and this is her home track too, so pretty good numbers, 2 for 4 and going to victory lane at your home track in Hersheys Cup Series competition.
And to top it all off, she won the last time when it was at Darlington in the Cashel GTX Cup Series, too. She won the Southern 500 last season as well.
I think she knows how to drive Darlington. Meanwhile, Blaine Keys still out in front, and as we tick away every single lap under green, that is one more lap closer to the possibility of green flag pit stops. We haven't had a whole lot of races this season that have played out to fuel strategy. A couple of 1.5 miles like Atlanta and Texas have, but for the most part, these drivers have had the beneficiary of a caution coming out, being able to pit under the yellow flag. But we touched on this earlier. This is one of the toughest pit roads to get onto, and so if green flag pit stops come into play, these drivers have to have themselves prepared for that pit road entry.
Exactly, as we see Emmanuel Hartnett and Jessica Shelton both draft by K Shearer. Darlington has been known for fuel mileage races too in real-time NASCAR as well.
Absolutely right, yeah. I mean, just go back to this year's Darlington race. That was a fuel strategy race.
Exactly.
Talked about how drivers have themselves set up for the short run and the long run. I think the 83 and the 02, Hart and Shelton definitely have long run setup cars because they started this race outside of the top 10. Shelton started in 17th, Hartnett started in 14th. They've been able in about 15 laps time to fight their way up to 6th and 7th. So those may be 2 of the fastest cars in the field. And if they can catch up to the top 5, look out. We may end up seeing a couple of new drivers up in the podium.
And ironically enough, it was Hartnett who Shelton held off for my the Southern 500 win in my series too, ironically enough.
Mentioned that Shelton is a 2-time winner here. The other former winners, Season 1, it was Kean Eddington. He's no longer in the series, but we do have another former Darlington race winner in this field, that being the 15 of Tim Walsh. He went to victory lane at this track back in Season 3.
That's another guy who knows how to get around any track in the circuit.
Right now, we've got first place all by himself, potential battle for second, potential battle for fourth. These drivers have definitely spread out here up at the front of the field, and I gotta think that with the speed we've seen out of Hartnett and Shelton, might not take them very long if they stay lined up and draft together. We could see them be able to catch these little groups.
Yeah, but the problem is that nobody's made a move on Blaine Keys all day long, neither.
Absolutely right. Blaine Keys and J Bryant both looking for their first win this season. Both took part in the chase last year. Blaine going to victory lane last season at the last possible opportunity to get into the chase when he won at M&M Super Speedway. J Bryant currently on a 1+ year winless streak. He went to victory lane last season at the Monster Mile of Dover. And we mentioned, of course, Sean Gallighan there in third, winner at Rio de Janeiro. As a matter of fact, all three of the Seth Cole Baker Motorsports cars have gone to victory lane already this season. Trent Dunham winning, or not, I'm sorry, not Trent Dunham, Anthony McCrury winning at Bristol, and Cole Baker winning at Atlanta, Gallighan at Rio. So those three, looks like we may have all three of the SCBM drivers in the chase. But as mentioned, Blaine Keys hasn't won yet. He'd love to get all three of the Sega Motorsports cars in the chase for the championship.
Oh, exactly. And one thing I will touch on that Blaine Keys scheme that I didn't mention, that it was the Boyke Army car that was actually on a display car at Daytona where they actually, I think it might have raced there too in the 500 that year. But of course, he had about a display for all the military cars on the before the 500 began. So I almost said this car didn't race in the 500 though with Hickey behind the wheel, but I think it did. Looking back on it now.
Hey, look at Blaine Keys' numbers coming into this race. It's not really that much of a surprise to see him run up here at the front. He comes into this race in the top 10 in the points, make that 7th rather in the standings. So he's had a very consistent year. He just has to find victory lane, and we've seen that so many times. I mean, think back to last season when we saw Levi McIntyre and Joshua Michaels having unbelievably consistent years. They just couldn't find victory lane, and that was what kept them out of the chase for the championship.
And I pretty much know how that felt, though, and Eric Burton and I both got kept out of it by not winning.
That gap between Blaine Keys and J Bryant hits closed up. We could have a battle for the lead here momentarily.
Exactly. JT trying to find any weakness out of Blaine Keys, which nobody has all day long, though. He's trying. I thought he was going to go high there for a second, but he decides to stay in line there, and he's got Gallighan behind him. So, like you said, 3-car battle in that. But there's times that JT closes up, and then there's times that Keys just drives away from them and opens up a rather substantial lead on the field. Come off the 4th turn here, as you see, and as he's doing right now, he's pulling away from JT and Gallighan again, and Gallighan now gets inside for 2nd.
Is it possible that the 44 may have kind of sucked the 22 back to him? Does the draft work that way here at Darlington?
Ordinarily, you wouldn't think so, because it's not as good as tracks as we talk about drafting, like at Talladega, Daytona, or even at tracks like Auto Club in Michigan as well. You would think it wouldn't work at Darlington, but of course, in the matching of NR 2003, anything's possible, obviously.
Absolutely. Another thing, too, we got to take into consideration, too. I mean, we're talking about a fuel mileage race, but Darlington Raceway is one of those kind of tracks that eat up your Goodyear rubber. So it takes away the grip, it takes away the handling. These drivers slipping and sliding around, trying to make sure they don't slide up into that wall. And maybe Gallighan has conserved his tires a little bit better than JT Bryant, and that's why he was able to make the pass so easily.
A good point, because I mean, this track reminds me a lot of Rockingham too, because I always thought Rockingham was like sandpaper for tires, and Darlington's. We talk about Darlington being a fuel mileage track, but that's what some people forget, is that's actually a track we had to really take care of your tires too.
Now in the truck race, we had a caution come out, so everybody was able to pit under yellow flag conditions. So we don't really know what the fuel window is for these drivers when they're going to have to come to pit road. We do know they can't make it the full 56 laps on fuel, but the question of when we'll start seeing these leaders duck to pit road, not quite certain, and I guess we'll find out the same time they do.
Exactly. It's again, Blaine Keys still out in front. He's now again able to pull away from Don Gallighan and JT Bryant. Now Gallighan's going to pull away from Bryant now.
And he might be able to start driving away from the 22 and closing on the 42. When Blaine Keys and JT Bryant were running 1-2, I was going to bring up a point that in terms of teams, those two teams have the best momentum right now, Sega Motorsports and Young Motorsports, in the fact that those two teams have won the last two Hersheys Cup Series races, with Dallas McIntosh going to victory lane in the second race back, the last race of the first half of the regular season, with Dallas McIntosh winning at Richmond. And last week in the Coca-Cola 600, it was Cody Smart for Young Motorsports going to victory lane. So those two teams have the last two victories so far in this series.
And it's kind of great for, you got teams like, as you said, Young Motorsports and Sega Motorsports, picking up some of those new names in the NNSCRA competition, trying to get them a start in this category, and pick it and maybe pick up to where the Gallighans and the Poteets and all of them and even going back to as far as the Hanleys all left off here and see cars coming on pit road.
Yep, now the pit stops begin. As a matter of fact, I did make an error. I just realized. No, it was not Cody Smart who went to victory lane in the Coke 600. It was Benjamin Miles. So I must have been
gotcha.
I must have been remembering a previous recording that Cody Smart went to victory lane. And maybe I'm thinking back to last season's Hershey's Cup Series non-charter series. I don't know.
Oh, jeez. I've made errors like that myself, too, so you're not alone.
I wish the mistakes were few and far between, but I can't even boast that. Dallas McIntosh deciding to stay out here, and this is kind of interesting because we talked about the tire wear and everything. You stay out longer, you're going to have more than likely slower lap times than the drivers that come to pit road getting the fresh rubber. The only difference I can think of that it might be smart to stay out a little bit longer, you're coming down a pit road that's almost deserted because pit road here is pretty tight.
And it also gives you an advantage, too, that if it comes down to the pit stops with about less than 5 laps to go, it does give you an advantage to maybe make it the rest of the way when nobody else can.
Couple drivers that decide to stay out. McIntosh, we saw Hartnett, McCrury, points leader Brandon Gonzales, along with Johnny Gardner and K Tellier. And here comes the 14 now giving up the race lead to come to pit road.
As is the 33.
Brandon Gonzales, he's going to risk it staying out a little bit longer. Brandon Gonzales with over a 100, I've lost count. I know it's over 100 races that he has got for his winless streak. It's got to be getting close to 120, I would have to think. Maybe rolling the dice, trying to see if staying out might gain him some track position here.
Maybe so, though. I think, of course, remember it's the same Brandon Gonzales who's the Season 9 Snickers Cup champion, too.
Absolutely. Also comes into this race with the points lead, 11 points over Chris Dodd, who has 2 wins this season. Gonzales still looking for his first since Season 2, if I remember correctly, it was at Texas.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at Sean Gallighan here, he might cycle around as the leader. We have to see where the 42 of Blaine Keys comes out. See if it'll be Gallighan or Keys that'll cycle into the race lead.
We see J Bryant behind him, so JT should be behind Gallighan, obviously. Let's see.
We're going to have to wait a couple of laps for the scoring monitor to update itself now that Gonzales has hit pit road. Gallighan has jumped up to second. So, yeah, if he passes Gonzales with Gonzales on pit road, Gallighan, after the cycle of pit stops, is going to inherit the race lead.
And bad break for Blaine Keys because where he dominated the first half of the race, he'd be dropped down to the 3rd position behind Gallighan and Bryant. So we'll see if we know Blaine Keys got a strong car. We'll see if he can find his way back by Bryant and Gallighan both, because we saw how hard it is to take the lead.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Blaine Keys very easily be able to kind of manage a gap between second place, whether it was Bryant in second or Gallighan in second. Now the question is that car just as strong when it's back in traffic? And looks like he's going to have his hands full for the moment with Caleb Farrell for that 3rd position. Farrell running in 4th. McIntosh going to be cycling around in 5th, so staying out kind of gained him a little bit of track position. Then Shelton there in 6th, Hartnett in 7th. I don't think we've heard the last of these two yet.
No. Never can count those 2 drivers out.
Then you jump back to Cody Llamas. Good run for him. Well-needed run for the 48 as he's in 8th place. McCrury, of course, we mentioned he was outside the top 30 in the point stand. He's coming to this race. Needs to get back into the top 30 for his win at Bristol to count towards a chase spot. And he's running in 9th. And L Alvarise, the Lake Speed throwback, has now cracked the top 10.
Good run for Alvarise. As you see K Shearer and T Walch battling it out. That's 10th and 11th, or 11th and 12th, excuse me. And Johnny Gardner behind him in 13th, making a race out of it.
Tim Walsh making a late appearance here, trying to get himself up into the top 10. Mentioned that he and Shelton, the only two former winners at this track that are in the field here tonight. And look at this, J Bryant has run down Gallighan. Now we know that Gallighan and Bryant kept swapping second place back and forth when Blaine Keys was out in front. So these two might be on an equal playing field in terms of the strength of their race cars, and this could be a very interesting battle here.
And all the times JT Bryant trying to painstakingly take the lead away from Blaine Keys, and he better remember all those times too.
Absolutely. You look at back to the gap between these two back to third place currently, Blaine Keys about 4.5 seconds. But if these two start getting side by side and racing with each other, those 4.5 seconds will probably close up pretty quickly.
Exactly, and that's what Blaine Keys is hoping for at the moment, though. And to see JT trying to go inside of Gallighan and having none of it.
So with that point being said, that if these guys start racing, third on back are going to start closing that gap. If you're JT, do you kind of wait it out? I mean, it's still pretty early on. It's going to be 16 laps to go when they hit the stripe this next time. So do you kind of just ride there, conserve, wait for Gallighan to maybe make a mistake, or at least wait to make your move until more close to the end of this race?
If you can stay close, enough to it when you get down to the 2 or 3 laps, so then that'd be the strategy right now, and then wait till about that time to make the right move if you can.
Now they haven't really battled yet, but the gap between themselves and third place actually closed up. It's closed up by about 0.6. So Blaine Keys mentioned that he was very strong out in front, had to see if he was going to be strong back in traffic. Looks like that car is still just as strong, and looks like he and Caleb Farrell it's almost I kind of am getting the understanding why this was considered a super speedway back in the day, because it's almost like we got two car tandems going on here.
As we see Caleb Farrell going by Blaine Keys, so apparently Blaine's car's falling off a bit, and there's Emmanuel Hartnett. Pedal to the metal in that 83 car, and I think he's still about 2.5 seconds back of Farrell and Keys at the moment. So we see J Shelton running in the 7th position at the moment.
Yeah, Hartnett got around both Shelton and Dallas McIntosh very quickly. He jumped from the 7th spot up to 5th in about 5 laps, so that's obviously one very strong Toyota Camry.
I say Hartnett's going to be one to watch here when you get down to these final 10 laps.
Going to have to see the gap between himself to Blaine Keys and Caleb Farrell, see how quickly he can get by them. I mean, when we hit the stripe here, it's going to be 13 laps to go. I don't know, is that enough time for him to overcome what last time by was about 4 points?
He knocked 0.8 of a second off.
Yeah, I mean, does he have enough time to get up here and battle it out with these two, do you think?
He keeps knocking 0.8 of a second off. I think he'll be right there.
Big thing he's going to have to do is make quick work of Blaine Keys and Caleb Farrell, because if he gets hung up battling with one of those two, then that might be all she wrote. And here he is. This is a 3-way battle for the 3rd position now. Hartnett joining the party with Keys and Farrell.
0.6 of a second knocked off that time for Hartnett did.
And now you've got Emmanuel Hartnett up here with the 95 and the 42. If these guys stay single file, there's no doubt about it. 3 cars can produce more speed in a draft than 2. These 3 might be able to draft their way up to Gallighan and JT Bryant.
I'll tell you exactly, and that's one thing those two don't want right there. It's have it go from a 2-car race to a 5-car race for the win.
Absolutely right. And you look at those potential 5 cars, only one of them, Gallighan, has been to victory lane. So 4 hungry drivers looking to put a 1 in the win column this season. And of course, Caleb Farrell trying to become the 3rd rookie to go to victory lane this season. We've already had 2 rookie winners, Alex Drayden at Las Vegas, K Shearer at Dover. So maybe get a 3rd rookie in the chase for the championship. Caleb Farrell would love to be that rookie. Let's watch this gap here. It was about 3.8 back to 3rd place, and it's cut down. Yeah, it's about 0.3 chipped away there, and they have about 10 laps to go. I think they've got enough time if they continue that pace to catch these top 2.
And Hartnett's now moved in the 4th position as he got Michael Farrell right now as we continue to watch John Gallighan and JT Bryant. We're already at laps to go, coming to 9 laps to go now here at Darlington, so time's ticking away. The laps are clicking off.
Now, obviously, Sean Gallighan's probably looking in his rearview mirror a lot more than he is out the windshield, but right now, JT Bryant hasn't done anything that really even indicates he's ready to make a move, so I think Bryant playing a little bit of cat and mouse here, so Gallighan's got to be on pins and needles trying to figure out, when's this 22 going to start battling me?
Exactly, and I think JT's doing the right thing. He's kind of feeling Gallighan out right now. You know, as you said, play a little cat and mouse game, trying to fake him, maybe fake him a couple times right now. It's like I said before. I think you better. I think you don't start making your moves until you think it's the right time to so. And Hartnett to the inside of Blaine Keys. Like I said, watch out for him. He's flying, buddy.
Boy, look at that. He just completely left Blaine Keys in the dust.
Here he comes, buddy.
You know, one thing I'm noticing about JT Bryant, too, that I kind of question, he's right up on the back bumper of the 44. I think that where Hartnett made the move right there in 1 and 2, that's the place where you've got to make the move if you've got that momentum.
Exactly.
And I would, if I were JT, I'd hang back about maybe a half a car length off Gallighan's back bumper, try and get a slingshot out of turn 4 to be able to get a big enough run to be able to dive to the inside heading into turn 1. But he's right up on the back bumper of the 44 car.
And another thing about making the move through 3 and 4, though, we said 3 and 4 is the more critical corner than 1 and 2 is, because it's a tighter turn than 1 and 2 is, and so as well. I've now lost track of mine here.
Well, right now, don't look, but I'm seeing that 83 looming in the same camera shot as these top two. He made very quick work, as we saw at Blaine Keys. Look at that. He is less than 3 seconds back now. We could see Hartnett make a bid for this win here if he continues up the blistering pace he's got.
He's chopped off 3 seconds in about less than 6 laps.
I mean, we saw him and Shelton early on fight their way outside the top 10 up into 6th and 7th.
2.5.
There's no doubt he's got a strong car. Oh, my goodness. This is amazing. I mean, normally when you see 2 cars lined up like this, they're going to leave that single car in the dust. Hartnett is running down 2 cars in a tight draft.
Exactly. He's got the pedals in the metal right now, too. I think, but just, as we said, one thing, though, before catching him's one thing, pass him's another.
And the one thing that's not on his side right now is the fact that laps continue to tick away. This time by 4 laps to go at Darlington. Does he have enough time to not only catch these two, but pass them?
7,600s knocked off that time by, too.
And now he's definitely, I think, within striking distance of picking up the slipstream off the back of the Rocket League Ford, so that's going to help him even more on his straightaway speed. Look how quickly he's closing the gap now.
Oh, boy.
And Bryant...
I don't think you want to repeat what JT and Gallighan's saying right now.
Well, Bryant spent the last 10 laps just concentrating on the 44. Now he's got to look out his rearview mirror, because here comes Hartnett.
JT's able to shut him off right there. It'll be coming down to 2 to go this time by.
We saw Hartnett be able to gobble up a 2-car pack before when he got by Blaine Keys and Caleb Farrell. Now can he do it with Gallighan and Bryant in 1st and 2nd place?
Well, you see what I said, catching him's one thing, but passing him's another. Now he's stuck behind Bryant trying to get past him, and now Gallighan's starting to pull away from Bryant, but as you said, there could be a possible that draft. Oh, he took a look.
Did you see what Gallighan did there? He moved down low. I think if Hartnett had made the move, he was actually going to help suck the 83 by the 22 there going into 1.
Yeah, he's going to go inside of JT trying to make a move in the 3rd turn, and he does. He takes 2nd.
Now the question is, can he complete the pass? Turns 3 and 4, not the easiest plays.
He's inside of Gallighan.
Ooh, not quite able to get to the left rear, though. Gallighan hangs on. White flag one more time around.
Oh, Gallighan's going to be nervous right now.
I think Gallighan's just got to hug that dotted white line.
He's on the inside. He's got to look inside.
Got a nice run there out of turn 2 as well. Can he follow it up with good momentum down the back straightaway? Will he look to the inside in 3?
I don't know.
Gallighan just got to hug the line. Just don't give that inside line to the 83. Hartnett.
I think Gallighan's got it.
Not going to be able to make the move. Gallighan's going to win his 2nd race of the season. Mountain Dew Southern 500 goes to the 44.
Great drive by Sean Gallighan. I think he saw what Hartnett was doing right there when he made the move on Bryant, though. I thought Hartnett might have had a shot, though, through the 1st and 2nd turns, though, when he took the look to the inside, but great drive for Sean Gallighan. You got to feel for Emmanuel Hartnett. He was that close.
Undoubtedly, probably the strongest car in the field was that 83, but just came up one position too short. Sean Gallighan wisely taking away Hartnett's line. And Gallighan now joins Chris Dodd as a two-time winner, and I think that may have very likely just locked up Gallighan a spot in this season's Hersheys Cup Series chase for the championship.
Exactly right, though. Emmanuel Hartnett, you got give props to Emmanuel Hartnett, though. I mean, second place. I mean, Ken came from about, almost 5.5 seconds back, though. Just about pulled it off, though. And but I think him getting by JT, that kind of slowed him up a bit.
After that last cycle of pit stops, we had, I think, roughly somewhere about 20-25 laps remaining in the race. Hartnett fought his way up from 7th to the 2nd position, almost to the win. So that was one strong machine. I don't know what they did on that pit stop, but I think everybody in the field wishes they had had the same adjustment.
Wow. And just came 800 of a second short, though. JT Bryant and say Blaine Keys. And this is another guy you got to feel for. Blaine Keys had a strong car in the first half of the race, ends up finishing in 4th position. I think that she said that round of stops might have hurt him a bit. And then you got Caleb Farrell running at the 5th position, a great run for that 95 team.
And then you look further down there, Dallas McIntosh. We saw him up at the front most of the night. He's going to get 6th. 7th for Jessica Shelton. Another great run at Darlington. Didn't get the win, but definitely a great showing in front of her home crowd. Anthony McCrury, well-needed run for this guy, so he might be back in the top 30 in points with an 8th place run. How about that? The two former winners at this track ended up finishing in the top 10. Tim Walsh was able to finish in 9th, and Johnny Gardner completed the top 10 here this evening.
No surprise that Walsh and Shelton, as you said, they're two of the strongest competitors in this series.
But now with Gallighan going to victory lane, that still leaves some spots open at this current point in time with the live chase field of drivers to potentially be able to get in on points. It also opens the door for drivers that might pick up their first win further on down the road to have that win count towards a chase position. And as we get more of these repeat winners during the course of the season, that's going to be more and more the case as we draw closer to the regular season finale at M&M Super Speedway. So for some drivers, kind of breathing a sigh of relief. Maybe the one driver wasn't too happy about that, Chris Dodd, because now he has to share the number 1 seed at this point in time with Sean Gallighan when the chase field gets reformatted.
Exactly. Gallighan, of course, one of the real veterans in the NNSCRA, though, and as well. And I say I wouldn't be counting the way he ran here at Darlington today. I wouldn't be counting him out as the chase starts.
Absolutely, no doubt about that. But what a race here tonight at Darlington, the Mountain Dew Southern 500. Throwbacks galore, and it was great to have you here in the booth with me, Qualls.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you very much. And hopefully we'll get the Johanna Atwood Motorsports car straightened out in the Pizza X Series. We haven't had really a real good season right now, though. Even though we're running solidly at the moment. And but still trying to work on getting both those cars equal to where we can maybe eventually battle for the chase.
Well, still plenty of season left to go before the chase begins in that, and as I've definitely called the Johanna Atwood Motorsports team the one of the strongest teams, I think, in Pizza X Series competition. Of course, with the 27 making the chase for the past 2 seasons and the 70 making the chase last season. So want to wish you the best of luck in the continuation of that season. Hope you guys enjoyed tonight's race. If you did, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to become part of the crew today. Also be sure to subscribe to James' channel. I'll put the link to his channel in the description. And also be able to be sure to check out his Castro GTX series races that take place here on this channel. I know that you just recently had the Daytona 500 go up, and that was a really exciting race to watch, so you guys will want to tune into that. And aside from that, anything you want to say, Qualls?
One thing I will say, though, you might want to check out Seth's races more, because his is a whole lot better than mine is.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. Not at all. All right, so anyway, thanks everyone for tuning in. We will see you guys next week, as next week we'll have all 3 series coming to you from the new configuration of Phoenix International Raceway. The start-finish line going to be on the back straightaway now, rather than the front straightaway that we're accustomed to, so we'll see how that plays into all 3 of the series, as far as them continuing on their chase towards the chase for the championship.
Going to confuse a lot of people with that configuration too.
It's probably going to confuse me even more, but anyway, we'll see you guys next time as you've been watching a production of NNSCRA Offline Racing at its best.